Hello. I thought I'll be fine.
That's a good one. Good start. I won't cut it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And today with me I have Marcin from Awaken Realms, and you just launched the Castle of Burgundy Special Edition over on GameFound.
Yeah, we did. Pretty exciting stuff. Really.
So we're a few hours into it by the time I'm filming this, and like right now we're at 382,000 euros so far, 3,200 backers. There are like 30,000 people following the campaign, so I'm expecting this one to go pretty big, all things considered. I mean, I don't know. I have a list of things I'm coming in with questions on, but if there's anything you want to cover as well, by all means, just steer me in the right direction, because the Castle of Burgundy, for context, is my second favorite game of all time as of my last year's rankings. I actually have my review for the game going up today at some point. Today means my today, not whoever's watching this today. But it's this is a joint venture between GameFound, between Awaken Realms, between Ravensburger, and I mean, let's start off the bat. Let's get things out of the way early. Any other projects, just to get those out of the way, any other projects coming up that we should know about, or we want to focus on Castle Burgundy today?
No, let's just focus on Castle Burgundy. Like, obviously, this is something very new for us. This is the very first time that we took someone else's design, as per game that was already published and so forth, and we did like a re-edition of it. That's the first time that we're doing that, right? So after the campaign, we'll be able to evaluate it, like how successful it was, whether we were happy with what we did, and whether this is something that we want to do, continue doing, and so forth. Whether our team is happy with this. The Castle of Burgundy was easy, meaning that the game is so amazing that it's hard not to like it, and have the opportunity to make an edition of one of the best games out there. It's kind of like a no-brainer. It feels like a privilege to be able to do so. And I think that especially the case was in there that a lot of people felt the need for this kind of edition, right? Where they felt that the user interface wasn't great, or the insert could be better, things like that, right? Little small quality of life improvements. And afterwards, probably sit down on the table, also talk with Ravensburger, see whether they are happy with what we've done and so forth, and then see where we can go from there.
Speaking of first, this is, I mean, in general, Awaken Realms has always taken a very strong collaborative approach with the backers and the campaigns, asking questions. Here are 3 bosses, vote on this, what do you think about these? But this is, at least from my experience, the largest degree of, like, you're from the scratch, from the get-go, from scratch, you're working together with people, you're giving them full direction in terms of massive changes, not just like, which boss do we have next, or what do you want to see on this planet. The entire game seems to be a work of communication with the audience.
True. So this is the result of 2 things, actually. So first thing, we're doing this on GameFound, and we have the possibility to make updates before the campaign launches. So this is actually very handy if you are in this type of thing, because first you can create your community much earlier than you would be able to if you don't have this kind of way of communication. And as you said, for Burgundy, before the start, we have 33,000 followers, which is a lot. And this is a result of this kind of preview page where we could show a nice draft and communicate with backers via updates and kind of polls and kind of do this work. Secondly, probably normally we would be a bit more hesitant to go that deep because most of the people don't know how the game plays. So that's probably major difference, because you actually have hundreds of thousands of people who played Burgundy, and they know exactly what they want, right? So that was an easier call to say, like, guys, what do you need? And they were telling us, we would love, for example, the bugs for hexes. So that would be an easy setup and tear down thing that we could do, or acrylic tiles would be nice for some of them. And then it is our job to decide how to kind of structure the pledges that would make the most economic, wise sense for people to get the best value out of their money. So in general, those are the kind of 2 key factors that allowed us to make it much more, deeper the level of kind of community dialogue.
And how long do you expect that process to continue? Like throughout the course of the campaign, much further onwards?
It definitely throughout the campaign and afterwards. So the one thing that we always do is like we almost always read comments. Sometimes it can be hard because people, it's internet. People can be very harsh on the internet, but I think that at some point we learned to kind of, you're trying to take what someone wants in terms of like rhetorical feedback, not the way they say it. So if you are able to make these distinctions, then you can actually read those comments and see like, okay, so people want a version without miniatures, and the way they will form it might be, oh, Awaken Realms, you greedy bastards, you only want to make money out of miniatures or whatever. But at the end you take, okay, they want a pledge without miniatures, so we can make that happen, right? so this is the way. And don't get me wrong, there's also a lot of amazing feedback. I don't want to make that there are only toxic comments or whatever. That's far from it. It's like 90% are very nice and helpful. So yeah. So that is definitely something that we always kind of keep in mind, even deep down on the development. Like 2 weeks before the production schedule, we are showing rulebook, for example, and people will say, this rulebook is really bad, you need to work more on it, and we'll reschedule whole production for a month just to have this extra time to and this is something that we did, for example, with Nemesis or ESS Vanguard. So until the files are sent, we're very, very prone to listening to people, right? It might not be as obvious as making polls, but we will be sharing files, printing files, we'll be sharing rule books, we'll be showing the production samples, and if you will see like a strong pushback or people like this or that, then we can kind of modify around it. And at the end of the day, it makes sense because we're making game for them. So it's nice to ask.
No, the point you made about the audience actually knowing what they want is a very interesting one. I didn't think of that, but it makes complete sense. You don't want to give anyone creative license over a game that they only know about what they see on your page, but something that people have played. That's a very, very good point. But speaking of miniatures, are there more miniatures planned or just the castles?
Maybe.
Is this one of several no comment questions we'll get?
Okay, so we definitely so one of the feedback was that people want the kind of like the approachable version. So I think we provided that, and then we might go wild with some version that will have more stuff and more kind of like deluxe things, but it will be purely cosmetic. So then, as the backer, you can decide whether you want just the gameplay, no miniatures at all, whatever, or if you want something crazy, then we'll probably be able to provide. Still, we have 21 days of campaign, so we'll be definitely seeing what people actually want. Because with miniatures, the problem is that you need quantities to make that happen with all the tooling and everything. Yeah. So those are pretty, cost. The scaling is really important there. So before committing to like more miniatures, we would need to see the actual people wanting that. So that is perhaps a poll that we'll make or whatnot. Sure. Would you like a full miniature 3D board?
For me, absolutely yes, with the understanding that it's like this is one of those things where it's complicated. Like I remember Terraforming Mars is actually my baseline for this, where even as I backed their big box, I wasn't sure if it'd be something that I got rid of, because to me accessibility is key. If I play Castle Burgundy less because of the deluxe version, that's not a good thing. But if it could be done in a way where it's beautiful, it's integrated, it does that whole, like I'm playing Foundations of Rome right now, it absolutely adds to the experience having deluxe, nice quality stuff. But it could get in the way of accessibility. If it's done in a way where, like, and everyone's gonna have their different preferences, because, like, for instance, a good example of Foundations of Rome takes up a big chunk of space on your shelf, but the trays pull out beautifully, everything works beautifully, it combines accessibility and production in a way that really works. I'm happy to give up shelf space as long as it doesn't take away from my experience playing. And then ideally 2 different boxes potentially, because of the fact that, about if I want to travel with Castle Burgundy, but I don't want to bring everything with me. But already in this conversation, we're starting to see a regular example and a problem, which is everyone has their own exact way that they want something done, and you can't cater to everyone. So, I mean, yes, but with the caveat that I don't know how it plays out in the end.
Sure, okay. Yeah, that's a fair point. So it is a bit complex with the Burgundy, right? Because you have things like you're pulling out a tile from the back at random, right?
Exactly.
So you cannot really pull miniatures, so you'd probably be
you have to have a separate tray in some way,
and then taking out, which is like less flowy, but for some people might be absolutely fine. as long as, and there's one aspect of it that I find interesting, meaning that, for example, if you would have only those, baseline edition, cardboard only, and so forth, I would imagine that with like miniatures and everything looking better, for example, it would be easier time for you as a parent to get a child playing it because it just looks better, more interesting, and more fun, right? So those are
Yep.
the things that, in general, I feel like are often kind of like omitted in the discussion about miniatures, because very often people are like the miniatures are actually keeping people away from board games, but I not necessarily agree. Sometimes if someone will be
Yep.
passing by and see something that looks really amazing on the table, then they will have the incentive to kind of play it. And the way we always wanted to design games, we kind of look like at three pillars. So first, it needs to look amazing so that people will be interested in playing. Then you need to have an amazing gameplay so that people will stay and will play it and have this kind of positive feedback afterward. And on top of that, we always wanted to make a cool stories and kind of around that. So those are the three pillars whenever we want to make board games, that we usually kind of invoke those three pillars.
Yeah. Now on the campaign page, I'm seeing a whole lot of different expansion boxes. Is that the plan as far as actual delivery, to have separate boxes for all the small expansions, or is there like an all-in-one solution?
No, it will be one box. So a lot of people are asking for it. It just obviously also makes sense. But what we often do is we kind of like show expansions like that, so people will see that this is an actual expansion that was sold
Gotcha.
before as a kind of like a different expansion. So yeah.
Perfect. And regarding the art, I know that there have been I know a majority of the polls I think have been so far about the art and how that's being handled. And I'm assuming it's not final yet, but is the goal to have a final or close to final art by the end of the campaign, or consider that a work in progress until it's done?
It's work in progress, and we'll have much more people on it, much more hours on it. I think it's already looking really nice, but we definitely will be, especially if you're looking like, for example, for a main board, definitely will be reworked. If you're looking at player boards, also will be much better looking, and there will be an asymmetric between the players, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, the tiles will be also looking a little bit different. So we definitely will be working on it, making sure that and it also, one thing that people asked about, and we'll definitely make sure that after the job of the art and layout set will be done, we'll have like a lot of time actually playing the game with the new art, right? Uh, so that so that actually we'll be able to test real life on how things are playing and whether the usability is there.
Gotcha. As far as the acrylic overlays, I know you have the system. The way you have the system set up is you have the board, you have the slide-in board where you're including multiple copies of every single thing, so players can play with the variety but with the symmetry at the same time. Asymmetrical symmetry, I guess that's not really a thing, but that's what we're going to go for. But as
Yep.
far as fitting tiles, and I know you have both cardboard and you have an acrylic upgrade option. As far as
Yes.
fitting tiles into the overlay, like what's the plan to make sure those are pulled out or whatnot, being able to pull it out without messing up the whole board? Like if you accidentally place something, you're like, oh no, I want to change
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. hmm So the hex style will be a bit like,
Thicker.
so. Okay, so you'll have this honeycomb that is hard, will be transparent plastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the hex style will be like above it by probably like a half or a 1 millimeter, just to make sure that you can easily disassemble it. And the hex, the kind of this hex honeycomb
Mm-hmm.
will be kind of like going into the double layer, so that whenever you'll be pulling out a tile, you will not pull out the whole hex with it. So it shouldn't
No
be
problem.
that much of an issue, and especially that right now with the previous edition, the problem is that the kind of fiddliness of it all, like whenever someone will bounce the table a little bit, you know, your board can change, and we kind of wanted to make that a bit more stable and kind of like sturdy and better, and also the like all the hexa will be 30% bigger,
Yeah.
which when you're talking about special things, 30% is quite a lot
Yes.
because people feel like it's not big. But first of all, it will help with visibility, And secondly, it also helps the whole, pulling out, because the size is bigger, so it's easier. And also, one cool thing that I'm really happy with, maybe a little controversial, but when you have the monasteries, you had those kind of like, in the previous version, you had icons of whatever they do, and you would have like a whole player board that would explain every soothing buildings, and there's like 30 different buildings. So what we've done is that on the back of it, you'll actually have the rules explanation, because it's bigger and you have a place for that. So like during play, if you'll see something and you'll see like, oh, what's that do? You don't have to pull out, a separate sheet and read something, but you'll be able to quickly read whatever it does.
And that works because you have the bag that you're pulling the tiles out of. Yeah, and speaking of the bags, this is a personal request, I guess. Honestly, half this video could end up being personal requests, so take it as you will. But my pet peeve with bags always is when they're too small. Is when you can't even get your hand into the bag. Yeah, just noting that for the record.
So not making them cool.
So I'm seeing over here, we're going to see, and this is typical for an Awaken Realms campaign, but we're seeing, every 2 days something popping up. Day 1, expect an extra stretch goal. What kinds of things, and feel free to say no comment, but what kinds of things, even if you just want to go in categories or genres of things can we expect? 2 days means at least 10 of these. What are we looking at here?
Sure. Okay. So I think because, so my team is, as we're speaking, are preparing the first update, but I think since the video will go later on, I can spoil that, right? That makes sense.
So I get to be very excited, but everyone watching this already knows about it. That's okay. I'll be excited.
Exactly. So, okay, so the first expansion, so the first stretch goal is actually the biggest stretch goals that we have prepared, but we decided that, okay, let's go all in, day 1, let's go. so it's vineyard expansion, and the idea is that you will have a separate board that you will connect to your player board. It will have 4 layers of cardboard, and there's like a special points that you can score. And then you will have grapes tiles, and those are like a double tiles, and you will be placing them on the vineyard for like a extra way of scoring. So Stefan Feld designed it. It has been in his mind for quite some time, and now with this edition, first of all, we have the possibility to make it in regards of the the overall. I would say it's like a bit more spatial than the normal kind of retail thing in that regards, and it's, I think it is the biggest and the most significant expansion that's been to the castles of Burgundy, because there are a lot of like smaller expansions. There are big ones like roads or shields, right? But the vineyards will be the biggest, and super excited about it. So this is one of the things that is pretty big and will be pretty big. But then, just to kind of like manage expectations, we'll also write this in the campaign. We'll be doing a lot of like quality upgrades. Obviously, there is a level of budget that we need to work with, and I think that also a lot of people will appreciate actually looking on what quality upgrades can we do in terms of like materials, or maybe first player tokens, making them better, things like that. But obviously, as always, we'll be looking over the comments, right, and see what makes sense. Also, we'll see, overall during the time how the campaigns kind of like moves along, and what can we afford to do and what not. At the end of the day, our goal is to make like the best version. But I feel like a lot of people, especially for this game, will not be coming like, oh, yeah, let's bring more miniatures, but they will be more like, let's make sure that the flow of the game, the quality of the materials will be super reliable, and this will be actually what our aim is. But I really like this kind of way of kind of unveiling the campaign where you have 21 days and we can debate with people, and there's like every 2 days here like extra surprise on top of what you already have. I really like that part of crowdfunding, so definitely. I'm
already expecting a small subsection of people who want the dice done the way the ISS Vanguard prototype dice were done. Get that material. Yeah. No, but you answered that's actually interesting. So the vineyard expansion, I'll have to look more into that. You already answered my first question on that, which is Stefan Feld involved with that? With the answer is yes. Do you know if there's plans to bring that expansion to people who have any other version of the game, or it's only in this version?
Okay, so right now everything is only for
Okay.
this version. So whenever this is extra, it's because of the hex
Ah.
size, and it wouldn't work with other things, right? But that's why also it is in the stretch goals. It's not an
Oh, it's a
add-on.
stretch goal. It's not an add-on.
But
Oh, wow.
yeah, so the expansion, yeah, that's why I was super excited about it. That this is actually like a big, really big, because you have like those four big, they're like this thick cardboard tiles made like pyramid. I would say you'll see it. Like if we'll keep this conversation
I'll just
long
go to the
enough,
thing. I'll go
we'll
update,
be able to
update.
update.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. So this is a stretch goal. So it will come within the box and everything. That's why it's a little bit different because the special edition, so the usual core box you would have in the other crowdfunding campaigns, is actually gameplay all in. So people looking at it, seeing the classic version, so without miniatures, you got this €85, $90, tax
Yep.
included. This is your gameplay all in. So I think it's a pretty good deal when you look at it. There will be a lot of expansion quality components, quite a sturdy box. Every component is really well done. So I think that people will really get the value of it, and this is how you kind of need to look at through the lens of it. That the €85, $90 is actually gameplay all in. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. I'm just looking through the pledges right now. So we have the €85 for the classic pledge, no miniatures. We have €95 for the gameplay all in. And we have €140 for the royal pledge, sun drop, everything else. Is that the all in price, or there's more stuff to come?
Probably there will be a
A few
few more
quality of life
stuff to come.
things. Gotcha. Okay, cool. And then we have the acrylic tiles over here, which I'm very excited about those. That's definitely one of the upgrades I was hoping for. In fact, I did a whole video on my listings of things I want, and like half of them off the bat, you already got those covered. So I'm fairly happy with this. But okay, cool. So I think. Oh wait, one question. I had one important question. Is there plans to make? And this is not for myself. I will never play this, even if you sell it. Is there plans to have a 5 to 6 player expansion? No, cool. Yeah,
No.
and I asked that because I know that lots of people often want things like that. For me, Casa Burgundy, even when you hit 4 players, already starts to drag its feet a bit. I would never play at 5 and 6, but I know sometimes people want that even despite the playtime of the add-ons, which is why I was curious. Okay, I think that covers most of my questions off the.
No, I would just add that there are those kind of games. Like for example, for Lords of Hellas, we had a 6-player expansion, and you would probably in a normal scenario would never play it, but we have on our Facebook group people who make a 6-hour slot. They bring 6 friends, really good friends, and they make this absolutely epic bonkers battle, and it looks pretty awesome. So it's not like. I know that probably 90% of time 6-player games with downtime doesn't make any sense.
There are
but
times.
There is those kind of scenarios where it's really epic.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I think that covers most, if not all, of my questions, at least until the campaign continues. Anything else you want to talk about, spoil, get into?
Yeah. One thing that is probably interesting, and I kind of will spoil, but it's on the GameFound side. It's like a GameFound flag, if that's fine. Okay, so it will be an interesting one because probably during this campaign, and no pressure on our developers team, but we'll be probably able to implement Google payments and Apple payments onto the payment section, and it will be actually interesting because majority of the traffic on crowdfunding is on mobile, and I'm interested whether it will increase the access for people who are not used to doing crowdfunding, whether Kickstarter or GameFound. So we'll have that, and we'll have also the logging in with Facebook and Google instead of creating another account. So I think that those will be interesting to see, and we'll have a side-by-side comparison because it will be probably if it will happen, it will be in the middle of the campaign. So it's interesting to see, probably.
And then lastly, as far as timeline, when is this hoping to deliver or whatnot?
Sure. So we're looking at April, May next year. One wave delivery. So on one hand, super hard to nowadays world, super hard to predict what's going to happen because of there's
everything.
A lot of weird things happen. But on the other hand, the easy part is that the development part of the game is 95, 97% done. So it's mostly art layouts. It's still a lot of work to make sure the details right, play test it, but no way near completing, 150 hours campaign,
Gotcha.
for example.
Yeah, it's an established product. You're making
Or
changes, you're making adjustments, but you're eliminating half the work up front.
Yep, true, exactly like that. So yeah, I'm basically really excited to see what the campaign will bring with the community. And it also, I think that maybe one thing that's interesting to add is that there is this kind of conversation often that I see on the BGG and the comments Facebook where kind of like people see those kind of deluxe edition of old games as something bad, or kind of like wrong, but kind of on my end, the way I look at it is that there are two different types of people in a hobby, and that's absolutely fine. There are people who like miniatures, like Deluxe component, have big table and want a big table present, and there are people who are just like your avid gamers that will buy a game, just want the essentials. And I think that both of them are fine, and I think that there's like no problem with it, because at the end of the day you can just not buy the deluxe version. You can always, it's not like we're taking out of print the non-deluxe version, right? It's like you'll have both options, and I think like in general more option is better, and the more variety we have in the hobby, it's better to the hobby because we can attract more different people, and it's actually cool.
Logically, I 100% agree with you, but also as somebody who sometimes makes bad decisions, I understand where people are coming from. Like a good example for me is all-in pricing, all-in in general. When you have a campaign, whatever the campaign is strictly speaking, the more expansions you should add shouldn't make a difference. If I wanted the base pledge, I should just want the base pledge. But I do find and it's completely irrational. This is my problem. But I do find that when the things exist, I kind of want to get all of it or none of it, which makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. I understand the frustration. I understand the frustration of people who... I disagree with the frustration, the same way I disagree with me being irrational. But I understand where it comes from when people... They feel tempted by the thing. They feel tempted by the price point, but they're upset about it. I still think the thing should exist. I don't believe in catering to irrational decisions, whether my own or others, but I do understand where it comes from, where the frustration stems from, especially with the concern of, hey, Awaken Realms does have a lot of miniatures, and you've always done a great job of separating those miniatures so people who want them can get them, people who don't. But at the same time, people look at this and say, hey, Casa Burgundy, one of our favorite games ever that we've wanted a new edition. Congratulations, it gets a new edition for the third time, and it's still not what I want. There's even a sense of frustration, not even necessarily with Awaken Realms, but with Casa Burgundy. It's one of the best games of all time, but it's always had drama and issues and frustrations around every single edition. And for people who don't want a miniatures deluxe magnified pledge, this is just the third time they're being disappointed. So sure, they don't have to get it, but it's the third time.
Yeah, that's a lot. I get that one thing that's wrong is gatekeeping people from playing content with inflated price, with components that they don't need. That makes 100% sense for me. And like if you make an expansion and have like 30 miniatures of it and make the expansion cost $80, that's probably where I would understand the frustration. I also get the if I will get it, so it's very rare, but if I'm obsessed about something, I don't care. Like I want everything. I know that I will never, I'll probably unpack it, will have a moment of happiness, and then I'll put it on the shelf. Will be very proud of myself for 10 next minute, and then I will forget about it for the rest of my life. But I'm still, all in in that, because, for example, if I have like books for the recent huge Kickstarter from the one of the best authors, fantasy authors.
Brandon Sanderson? The Reckoners?
Yes, Brandon Sanderson. Stormlight Archive, right? Love the books. I got everything from there. I know that it's like pointless, will never wear a t-shirt of it or whatever, but
I know the feeling. Listen, I did an unboxing video of Tainted Grail a year ago, and I finally dove into it, but yesterday. Yesterday was when I finally dove into it, and even that's only because there's a new version coming, so I kind of feel the pressure to. But I don't get me wrong, I play a lot of games, I dive into a lot of stuff, but there are both rational and irrational decisions that I'm making at the same time. Very good.
All right, Alex, thank you very much for the talk. Really excited. So we've been talking for
25 minutes or so, 30 maybe.
20. And we already are 43,700 backers. So
Oh, nice.
like $500.
So you got. I mean, we started. Yeah, nice. That's like more than that. Oh, wow. So good. I'm very excited. I mean, this is day one. We'll see. We'll see. By the time people watch this video, I wouldn't be surprised if there were 8,000, 9,000. Who knows what there is? I might be setting the bar too high. But I mean, with 30,000 people following, and with a game that's been out for 10 years, the sky's the limit of this. I'm very excited to see. I mean, I'd say Awaken Realms' first Euro game, but you did the Great Wall, so not the first Euro game. But I'm excited to see you tackle this. I mean, I can tell you even from my end, I'm just looking at games on my shelf, starting to wonder, both Ravensburger and non-Ravensburger alike, of like, I like seeing deluxeified games of versions I love. TMG did it for a long time. We see other companies diving into it different ways. We see games being brought back in different ways. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what happens. All right. Thanks so much, Rustin.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Have a good one. And to everyone else, I'll throw a link down below, including to the update that will show you visually all the stuff we were talking about.
Yeah.
Until next time, have a good one.